All right, guys. Well, the next thing that we're going to be talking about is this new book that I think had just came out November or something
Very
like that.
recent,
Like it wasn't too long ago.
Yeah, and the author, I recognize the author. He wrote a book in the old canon like 20 years ago.
Really?
What was it called? It was like
I'm assuming not Shatterpoint.
It wasn't Shatterpoint. That was Stackpole, I think. But it was like the C deception. I don't remember what the C word was. The C word. It was that.
The C word.
Yeah.
I think you're opening up a can of worms with just saying the C word deception.
But I saw the author's thing, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's done an expanded universe book.
Cestus?
Cestus.
Or Kestis?
I think it was Cestus Deception, but it was a Clone Wars era book back in the day. So I remember reading and being like, do I know that guy? Yeah, that's him.
Okay.
The Cestus Deception.
And that was not about Mace Windu? Do you know?
He's in it. But
okay.
It's not like Shatterpoint. That's like,
Gotcha.
I feel like this one is more Shatterpoint than.
We had, we have Timothy Zahn writing Thrawn books after he had wrote the original Heir to the Empire and stuff. So I'm like, oh, maybe you take some of these writers that wrote, here's the old EU, now let's have them write, like, well, this guy did Shatterpoint. It'd be cool to bring him in and do a Mace Windu book or something, But I also understand, like, maybe they're not writing anymore. They're not interested in that. Have passed. It's been a long time. There's a lot of years now.
There are. Garrus said, you can't just casually talk about the C word. I know.
That's what I'm saying.
You can in Australia.
The C word deception. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Anyway, so the Glass Abyss is the now current canon Mace Windu novel taking place, I want to say between 2 and 3, but really taking place between 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But it's really right after 1.
It is.
Right?
It is. It's like a week later, I think, that a lot of this starts taking place. And
yeah. So the basic setup is that, I encourage you to read the book, but the basic setup is that Qui-Gon post hominous after he died.
Posthumous?
Yeah. He sends a message to Mace like, hey, there's this thing going on at this planet. I promise I'd take care of it. I'm dead. I can't. Will you?
Yeah. Well, and while he's talking about that too, he's like, I have something else I have to deal with, and then once I'm done with that, I'll go back. And I'm like, I guess he was gonna do this, but then he got called to go help Naboo with this trade dispute.
That?
You
Did he record it before he got on the?
It must have been before going on the
ship?
The ship that goes to the blockade, right?
I guess because at that point on, he can't send any transmissions.
And he's pretty busy for a lot of it. I mean, he
busy.
does get back to Coruscant.
He does.
And I doubt he did it then.
Yeah.
You know?
I doubt it because, he had just been like, well,
but
F you then. I'll train him. I'll do it.
But, I mean, maybe he did. Maybe there's an element there where he's like, I know, like, this is much more dangerous than I thought it was. I need to make sure that this isn't forgotten. Yeah. Let me record this before helping this queen go back to Naboo.
I was initially, and I suppose you could still say this still kind of holds up, but I was kind of excited when I read that because when I can't think of a Jedi more opposite from Mace Windu than Qui-Gon Jinn.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, when you mention things like Gray Jedi, and you're like, man, I don't really like the idea of Gray Jedi. I'm like, man, I think Qui-Gon's one of the closest ones to being like not on like a real far, like at least the Jedi Order that we know. I think he's the closest probably to Jedi ways naturally, I suppose.
He's not dogmatic.
Yeah,
he's much more faithful.
The living force, right, is the thing that he really pushes into, and I think that fits more. Qui-Gon's the most like Jedi, I think, of the Republic, because I think like so many fall to like we are on the Republic side. Like that's why you don't. I think Qui-Gon in the Clone Wars would have fought with separatists. Like he'd have been helping them. He would have been helping the Republic. He'd have been helping both sides. I don't think he would have been as like, no, we can only help the Republic.
Yeah, dude, like, when you first, because you said that a couple of times now, when you first say it, I'm like, I don't know if he would, but like the more and more you say it, the more and more, like, when I love that Dooku scene, it's like, I wish Qui-Gon was here now.
Yeah.
Qui-Gon Jinn would never join you. Like, it would be so interesting if he did.
Yeah, I think it would have been.
It would be so cool to watch.
I think Qui-Gon would have understood more of what Dooku meant a little bit more than I think like Mace Windu's like, no, these are the rules. Yeah. Here's the lines, and you're crossing the line. And
Mace will look at the rules and be like, see, you can't do it. And Qui-Gon's like, so?
Yeah.
What does that matter?
You already have a pupil, right? You already have an apprentice.
Yeah,
oh, no, he's good. He's done. I'm going to take a new one.
Yeah, Mace is like, it's against the code. You can't do that. It's like, screw the code. Have you seen this kid's levels?
Yeah. So, I don't know. I do think they're very different. But I guess that's why I think of, like, Gray Jedi not necessarily... It's a weird thing. You have to think about what is the Jedi religion. And maybe the Jedi ways get even more explanations with what they do with the biblical that they're working on,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
The way back
The
when.
Prime Jedi stuff. That
Yeah,
they're
like
working on.
like what is the idea of what a Jedi is meant to be?
Yeah.
And I think Ahsoka and Qui-Gon fall more into that than like Mace Windu does, because I think Mace Windu starts falling into like strong soldier like roles and like very very headstrong on
I
like
agree.
rules.
Yeah.
Whereas Qui-Gon's more of like, how do I help people? What's a good way to help people?
And
Who can I help?
I also don't think that means that like Qui-Gon is right and Mace is wrong.
Sure.
I think that the right opinion, if that's even the right term, is somewhere in the middle. Because I do kind of consider Mace to be like the ultimate dogmatic Jedi, in which case, yes, he is flawed. But I also kind of feel they're necessary flaws. Like, yeah, everything's flawed.
Yeah.
The Jedi are flawed this way. But it's kind of the best way you can do it and not follow the dark side. Because, you know, the gray Jedi thing that I think a lot of, like, fans get into and be like, oh, we could do this and this, I feel like kind of goes against what Lucas was saying, what the dark side is and what the Force is.
Sure.
Lucas is kind of more like, no, the Force is the light side. That's it. The dark side is a corruption of that. You know, so if you go more like the balance and like I can do, you know, here and here, that's why it's like the mystery of the balance of the Force, because it's something that we're trying to achieve, but it might be impossible.
Sure, I guess
know?
so. Because then, like, you have George, who also did like the Mortis trilogy,
Exactly.
and you definitely have like a dark side there. But is the brother more meant to just be like, there is the light side and what the father and the daughter do, but then the brother's being corrupted, and that's what this is becoming.
I mean, George, I think, is a student of like, you know, Campbell, and he loves mythology that like the more you know, the less you understand it, kind of, you know. So I think there's a lot of debate and ideas of like, and this is what the Jedi and the Sith, and as we learn, other people try to interpret the Force. But yeah, it's interesting. I love the Qui-Gon Mace, because whenever I was reading this and being like, oh, Qui-Gon sent a message. Is this going to be like Qui-Gon's final lesson for Mace or something? But that didn't exactly happen. Like this book goes in a direction that I did not see coming. A lot of it I enjoyed. Some of it was not necessarily my thing, but I'm curious what you think of it.
There's parts of this book that I really like, and there's part of this book that like I don't know. I think there was a lot that was going on, so like a lot of it kind of like muddles in my mind. I wanted to get through this twice.
Me too.
And I wasn't able to.
To the point where like this morning we were like, should we like delay until next week and just read the book again?
And read it again? Yeah.
Because I often find like, especially something I don't like the first time, I'll enjoy it way more the second time. Like I did that with, you know, some scenes of Book of Boba Fett, some stuff from the sequel trilogy, some of the newer stuff where I'm like, oh, this is new and I don't know how I feel about it. The next time I absorb that content again and I'm not like guessing what's going to happen, I'm just kind of accepting / trying to understand it more, I end up enjoying it a lot more. So I haven't gotten to do that with this yet.
It's that idea of trying to watch, like if you watch I don't know, a movie with like a big twist at the end.
Yeah.
And like the first ride is more about like just what happens and getting the twist and the surprise and all that kind of stuff. And then when you watch it the next time, you're catching more of the foreshadows that were pointing towards it that maybe you didn't realize was foreshadowing because you didn't know necessarily where you were going yet.
Sure.
And I like being able to do that with the books where this book has a really good bookend of like the very first thing you get to the very last thing you get. And I had kind of forgotten what the very first thing I got was. Yeah. So, like, when I started listening to it again, I'm like, oh, well, that's really cool that, like, here's this introduction and what we're getting and, like, telling of a story. And this is the mindset you have. And then when you get to the end, you're hearing that, but you have a different perspective. And it actually goes with what I'm saying here. Like, when I hear that time, I thought of those exact same words a little different because now I have what that story was that it was about, that they're talking about. It's like the web weaver, like giving a story to children kind of thing. And I thought that was really cool.
Definitely.
So I just don't have that for all of the book. And no. Overall, though, going through it my first time, like I got to points where I was like, I've lost characters. Like they'll bring someone up. I'm like, shoot, who was this person again? Because there was so many new characters and stuff that were coming in.
I will say, like, I'm a sucker for lore and world building. I mean, it's one of the reasons I love Star Wars so much. But like, there's a lot of world building in this.
There's a lot of it,
and we build one world.
Yeah. We're not going anywhere else.
It's very fully realized. It's honestly, it feels a little bit more. It's more Dune than it is fantasy in a way for me. not to say that as a bad thing. It's more sci-fi than it is space opera.
Okay.
I feel like the world building and stuff like that, which I do greatly enjoy.
I guess I get what you mean a little bit, because there's a lot of this in Metagos, which we go to on this. There's a lot that rides on this silk, this like webbing that's being made, and like
from these worm spider dudes.
Yeah, these. Yeah, is that a worm? Is that a spider? What is that? But like they're making this like silk, and then they process it, and then it turns into like this real strong material, which is worth money, and then that's how this planet kind of keeps its productions and stuff going. But like by creating that and the ways they use that stuff, and where those creatures come from, and like there's a lot, like all that is within this world,
and that's just a small part of it. Like I know 7 levels of this planet.
Yeah,
you know,
there's a palace floating in the sky held by this stuff. You know, like there's a lot of elements of that and building of it, and I guess there's a lot of science fiction aspects to it versus some fantasy aspects.
Just in terms of the world building itself, you know. But I do like that we kind of get a new Force tradition, right, with the web on this planet.
Yeah.
They call it the web, but it's kind of just another aspect of the Force, though this one does have something special in that this planet is connected.
Yeah.
The whole planet. But we get Mace gets this message from Qui-Gon. He comes to this place that is kind of something terrible happened on this planet.
Yeah.
Some type of like sun radiation thing happens every 1,000 years, and everybody has to descend to underground. But the planet is like crystalline. It's like things are see through. It's really evocative. I thought the visual descriptions were really cool. There was just a lot of it, to the point where like there were so many details I was kind of losing the overall part of it sometimes.
Gotcha.
But that's why I think rereading would benefit me greatly.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, this planet, something terrible happened. People went down underground, and they're now kind of caught in this loose war / alliance that these mainly 2 criminal organizations have.
Yeah, it's like you have like the Pikes and you have the Hutts, and
Kinda,
they live on this planet together.
Having just played out Star Wars Outlaws, I felt right at home. In fact, like there was a part of me as I was reading, like, man, this would be a cool game.
Yeah, yeah, it would be. It would be a neat place to go around and live in and stuff.
Because like Mace has to, Qui-Gon has a small history here, and they are aware of Jedi, and Mace has to kind of hide who he is. And he takes on like a secret name, and he kind of like goes undercover. He has like his own like little detective thing going on. And
I did like the like kind of the mystery aspect.
Yeah.
There's like a aspect where it's like, where'd these eggs go?
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out that.
And then even the droid Maya 12.
Maya 12 and her sister Maya
She's
8.
kind of like
and her sister Maya 14.
Yeah.
And her sister Maya Haha.
Yep. They're kind of an interesting like play on the femme fatale.
Aren't they? They're what was the droid in Sam Witwer, Force Unleashed?
Proxy.
Yeah. That's the same kind of idea, right? A holo droid.
Yeah. Now, it is kind of interesting you bring up Proxy, because Proxy's like, he's kind of like a nanny. He's kind of like a caretaker a little bit too, because he helps raise Starkiller. Whereas this droid like has like, you can like hire them. They don't have like a master. They kind of have like jobs. Like you could hire him to be your therapist. You could hire him to paint your your ceiling.
Yeah.
Like they can do anything.
And they talk about that one point where it's like, they hired me for this, but if they would have hired me to be their therapist, I wouldn't have been able to do this or whatever it was. So.
Yep.
So yeah, I did like Maya. Maya was one, and the connection that Mace ends up with Maya, and like them working together, and like the prison and stuff too. Like there's a lot of aspects with that character. Maya, I think my favorite characters that helped Mace, I guess more so, were Maya, Wilf. Or Willif, he was like a doctor kind of dude.
Yes.
They walk through the city, and I really like their like exchange as they walk through the city, where it's like, well, I got to get over here, but you can come with me. But I like that character, and I also liked I think it's Vin. He was like the owner of the bar.
Bartender, yeah.
Yeah.
No, he was cool.
I liked him a lot too.
Especially towards the end, where he's like, I'm not really like a fighter, but like inside me is my warrior ancestors coming out. That was cool. Yeah.
But like when talking about the noir detective aspect of it, like him going up and asking him for like answers or different things, like the way he would answer, I loved, because it was He was usually giving Mace what he wanted, but indirectly too, because he's like, I can't incriminate myself. So it's like, I wouldn't know that.
Sure.
But if I was gonna look, I'd probably go over here. You know, like it was just fun to like listen to them talk about what they were doing and what Mace needed to know.
Oh, I also kind of wanted to shout out the just for the audiobook, the guy that read the audiobook. I thought he did a good job. I liked his Mace, and he had a very soothing voice, but it was also perfect for speeding up on Audible.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because like there's like 70 some chapters in this book. Not all of them are very long, but it's a long book. You know,
sure.
There was a couple times where it's like, man, I got to get through this, and I got 8 hours left. You know, I was like, I'm gonna make it 6 hours left, and his voice was kind of suited for that.
Gotcha.
It didn't feel rushed whenever I would listen to it on higher speed.
I did have fun with his Yoda was a little more Kermity, I think. I just had fun with it too.
Yeah.
It's always fun to hear different people's like Yodas and like especially the voices that you already kind of know.
Yeah.
Like hearing the takes on those and people who attempt those is always fun.
Yeah, we learn a decent amount about Mace Windu's past in this, which I thought was kind of interesting. With they have this nightmare thing going on this planet.
Sure.
To the point where like Mace is literally like reliving his time before being a Jedi, which I'm not really sure. Did it say like exactly how old he was?
I don't remember an age.
He's young enough where like so his family pretty much get like eaten by bears.
Yeah,
right?
Something like that.
Probably
yeah.
Insulted someone for being bald, got bears sent on him.
Bears.
So he's like kind of a baby, and the Jedi are like, well, we're gonna take him, but it needs to be his choice because there's no one to give permission or whatever, as the Jedi like to take, very young kids.
They take kids, yeah.
They kind of do this like thing where it's like, here's some toys, like which one do you like? And he's like, oh, lightsaber, It's like, oh, okay, I guess he chose being a Jedi. That part I thought was interesting. It was kind of not corny, but like I didn't love it or whatever, but it kind of made me laugh when he's like, yeah, he went for the lightsaber.
That's what I did with my kids when I'm like, all right, here's a Charmander, here's a Bulbasaur, here's a Squirtle. Now crawl over and pick one.
Pick one. That's good. Hey, we had a super chat on YouTube. ML with a $5 super chat, or $4.99, says, you guys are great. Longtime fan, and you guys are my go-to guys for Star Wars knowledge. Keep it up, fellas. Love from Michigan.
Well, thank you, ML.
Awesome. You're just north of us. We're over down here in Ohio.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the progression of that nightmare thing too, and like him, I guess, learning their web ways.
Yeah.
Where he kind of like Doctor Strange's or whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
Because like he's having those nightmares and he's trying to figure out answers and stuff too. But it was a nice, I guess, vehicle to try to get more into his head too and get more into his past, I guess, if nothing else.
Yeah.
But no, like him, I think one of my favorite things about Star Wars and the Force is those different ways of seeing what the Force is for different races or peoples or planets or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I love that
they're not mutually exclusive.
No.
If you look at like, various faiths and religions that we have here on Earth, some of them are mutually exclusive. Like they cannot coexist. But generally the Star Wars that appeals to the Force or the web or, whatever it is, like sometimes it feels very individualistic, like the High Republic Jedi. But other times when you see these other traditions, you can kind of be like, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying here.
You're just getting a chance to see, like, well, how do they connect to the same stuff that we all connect, and what do they call it? Like, the Force is just what we call it because that's what we started with, right?
Yeah.
But, like, if we just started with the web or, whatever the Bardotans had a different kind of connection to it, right? Yeah. Same thing with the Witches of Dathomir. Like, they all have this weird and different connection to essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
But getting to see that and how they use it or how it manifests on, like, the Wellspring or, like, the Mortis trilogy, where, like, that's all still the Force doing things.
It is.
We just get to see it in different ways.
We only know a very small part of it.
Yeah.
The potential of what that is almost infinite. We don't know.
Yeah, and I always think it's just fun to learn, like, their ways a little bit or, like, what they think of it. And it was neat to have Mace be like, so tell me about the web, like what is this stuff that you guys do? And he's just like, it's the Force, like.
And
that's what it is.
he joined, like he's a web dude now.
Yeah, like he did a dance and everything, right?
He did a dance, like he was pretty much like, I got two families now, the Jedi and this. I was like, damn, okay,
yeah,
hell yeah.
they called him family, I think, right?
Yeah.
Like they were,
but like, I don't know if like during the Clone Wars he's like, hey guys, I gotta like it's web day,
Web day.
I have to like I have to do some web stuff today or something like that. I did kind of feel because there's some really interesting stuff this book goes into. I personally kind of felt a disconnect of like because if I read this book, I expect Episode 1 Mace to be very different from Episode 2 Mace, but I don't really think that, because that's not how time works. This comes much later than when those were made.
Sure.
But
does like having this like you should see that change or that difference, and
yeah.
it does. We don't really see that, right?
Right.
I get what you mean.
Yeah. This has a really interesting no attachment Jedi relationship.
Yeah.
I did not expect a Mace love story as I went into this book.
I did not either. And
I'm still almost grappling with how I feel about it.
And it was. I don't know. I guess if we want to go into like more later into the book and stuff.
I'm all
you're hitting with like Qui-Gon's like the reason Qui-Gon says Mace, you need to go. He's like, I was hoping this would help your heart. Like it would heal your heart a little bit.
That's kind of the lesson, I guess.
Which I'm like, he seemed to have an idea, a notion, or something with this.
Yeah.
But
who this girl would really like? Mace
Windu. Yeah, right. His friend, his best friend.
Yeah.
Like they kind of look at each other that way.
He set her up with the second baddest Jedi.
I get what you mean, where you get that question where you're like, yeah, but he did this. If this helped heal his heart, why do I feel like Episode 1 and Episode 2 doesn't really change at all? And it's like, well, this happened a week after Episode 1, and then for 8 years, it scarred again. I don't know.
When the Clone Wars happened, and that's 3 years of chaos. Yeah, no, I get you. And the veil of the dark side is, becoming more and more, or less and less translucent.
I did like, and it's within all that was the Mace and Yoda conversation that they had about it, and there was. I don't remember how Mace worded it, but it was something like, did you ever get a chance to turn away, or did you ever turn away from leaving the Order, or something like that? And I just thought the conversation between those two was interesting, and I don't know, a little bit more personal between those two than usually I think Mace Windu is, I guess. I don't usually think of like, let's get personal with Mace Windu. I usually think of like the stoic, like this is what we got to do. So it was nice to kind of have that moment, and I always like whenever I get a chance to do it with characters that I'm also already familiar with, and Yoda's a great one because you see him leading so many individuals, whether they're like the younglings, in Episode 2, or Luke Skywalker in Episode 5, like whatever it is. He's a good vessel to have like, well, what does this person need to hear? And I don't know, I like that mainly just because of getting a chance to also hear if Yoda ever did that, which I believe he said no. I think I'm pretty sure.
So. Yeah.
So I'm like, interesting. So there was never, we have a Duchess for Obi-Wan, and he turns away from that. He doesn't, but there was a chance where it could have happened,
If said the word, I would have left the Jedi Order.
Anakin, we get to see that, and he just doesn't. He does that, and he does this. He takes both of them. We see what that does.
I mean, there's a point when I was reading this where I was like, man, this Mace Windu might have made a really good master for Anakin Skywalker. If you had just maybe trusted that kid a little bit more, if you had actually talked with him and treated him like a person and not like your chosen one savior.
Yeah, you wouldn't have thrown out a window.
You have to literally thump the Bible on, Like, you might have been a really good master for this kid. You guys have... If you had taught him Vipad, we might not have had the Galactic Empire.
Maybe. Yeah, right?
know?
I don't know.
Maybe let that kid channel his darkness and not be consumed by it.
Have we had... I'm trying to think of Mace's, like, apprentices. Have we ever seen much for that? Because I don't know that
Deppa.
I necessarily... Deppa's one of his apprentices?
Am I right about that?
I don't know. I don't remember.
It's Mace, then Deppa, then Canon.
Is that okay? Is that what the route? Because I know like there's like what Yoda, Dooku, Qui-Gon, right? Like that kind of thing. And I'm like, who is Mace trained? And I didn't realize.
Yeah. Though Nexus, you might be able to help me out with this. I remember Mace had a different Jedi Master in the original expanded universe, and I feel like he has a new one now, just been canon because I think I just read that when I was studying for Schmodown. But they referenced the old one in this one. So I was just curious if there's any like official confirmation on who Mace's master, or he could have just had two different masters. I mean, we certainly talk about Yoda being Obi-Wan's master, though not really.
Is it a name that was kind of like Terasa or something like that?
Yeah.
Because that one, I was debating, I'm like, this is like Mace teacher. And I was like, is that like his master? Or is that like Yoda is teaching a bunch of younglings. Is this Terra like, I don't know when Sindralic took over teaching like Jedi saber fights, but he was talking about Terra being there when I first fought and won my first like lightsaber battle or something like that. And I'm like, maybe that's the person training lightsabers, but not like his master. So I wasn't sure what that was either.
But yeah, I remember Terra being his master back in the day. But
okay.
But yeah, that's his master in Legends. You will meet his canon master later. Okay, gotcha. Interesting. Maybe in those aforementioned canon comic miniseries. Yes, we need to get to those.
Probably not.
Interesting. And I'm actually, the more I read more Star Wars, the less and less I'm like beholden to canon. That's not what his master is,
Mm-hmm.
So I like the idea that you could just be like, yeah, it's both.
Yeah.
There are many teachers for us throughout our lives.
But yeah, with Mace Windu, the love story aspect, like whatever that was going to be, I wasn't quite expecting that to be there at the end. I kind of was one of the reasons why I also kind of wanted to like re-listen again to it and kind of like think about those characters more so as the book went through. Once I got to the end, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because there's times where he's like, hey, oh my God, she actually smiled and it's kind of pleasant.
It was nice.
You know, I would like to see that more, please.
Yeah.
I just thought he was just like, man, she's a sad lady. But no, he's like, she's a nice sad lady.
What'd you think of? We had really, I only think one main villain in this. Like you said about the two gangsters and stuff, and I don't know. I never felt like
the other one. Like
Sybil was okay, I guess.
I only say it because that was the one that Qui-Gon was after, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the other...
But Chulok.
What'd
you think of Chulok?
I think Chew plus Lock equals Chulok.
I want a picture.
I was disturbed by Chulok. Okay, so Chulok is two people.
Chulok is a
Rodian?
It's a Rodian and like a Farakian or something like that.
Farakians scare me.
And they have some kind of like mental and physical binding they can do with like another person or creature.
So like Chulok has 4 legs and 4 arms and 2 minds and 4 eyes.
Yeah. So
but
like
they are 2 people.
They're like 2 people merged into one.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted a picture because I'm like, I don't know if this guy, does it look like Cat Dog? Does it look like Machamp?
Yeah. Is it like Goro and it's like on your shoulders?
Yeah. Is it more like that with 4 arms and 4 legs, like a centaur Machamp looking kind of thing? Is it like a cat dog and they're like, where are they combined? How are they fused?
I kind of imagine it being like here and he's like around, so you could have like arm.
Like I picture their heads being up here, but then also like cat dog, like they can talk to each other and they look at each other a little easier,
Cat dog, yeah.
So I was thinking about that, but the idea of it and just like, I don't know, it seems gross.
Nexus says there's no image of Chulok. So it's up to your imagination. Maybe I'll have to draw it one day.
I'm going to picture a cat dog looking thing.
Okay, I'll go Goro. You're on your shoulders. Goro.
Because that was how I imagined it, most of it, I think, was like them being connected, but like some kind of like almost worm-like thing, but they can walk. I don't know. It was a weird.
I hated it. Yeah. I hated whenever just one would speak. It freaked me out.
Dude, when I would listen to it in the truck, it was really cool because it felt like both of their voices were all around me. And I was listening to it with one of the kids, I can't remember, and they're like, whoa, what's going on? And I was like, this is like 2 people that are one people.
And like, it sounds like it's an agreement in that the Rodian wanted this to happen. But like, do we know that? Could this
yes,
be like
right?
Could it be a parasite species?
We must know that because like later on, there's like there's a ceremony or whatever they're doing where they try to get the Trinity.
Yeah, I know.
And like it seems like they're asking, not just like taking.
But, like,
you know,
if I was a parasitic species, I would sell that as well. But, oh yeah, you're fine. Come on, you can leave whenever you want. Now I have fucking 8 legs.
8.
You know what I mean? Math. I don't know. I'm afraid of that thing. That scares me.
I guess so. I think it surprised Mace Windu when they were like, hey, do you want to be our third?
I need to know what it looks like because I just don't buy that would make you a super awesome fighter.
It supposedly does.
But I had to like see what it looks like,
Yeah.
Like, maybe like the other one's like over you like an exoskeleton or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I also want do we know what the Farakians or whatever I don't know what that is either.
No,
I never heard of that before too.
We have no image of Chulok or Faraki.
Faraki.
Farakai.
Nexus mentions the bone bridge, which is I think why I picture more of like a cat dog thing, because I picture like this bone bridge connecting them together, and I don't know what it is. I also like I only imagine with things I've already seen. I feel like, so I don't create new things. I just like, oh, look at that, pull that here. That's what it looks like. Put a Rhodian head over here. I don't know what a Farakian is, but put that over there.
King Mahler is funny. I can't believe we have all these crazy planets, storylines, characters. We always end up on a goddamn sand planet in the movies. It's like, well, hey, movies are expensive, and deserts
are everywhere.
They're
right?
everywhere,
and they're empty, and people don't go there trying to watch what your movie is.
I
right?
gotta build 7 levels of crystal.
Yeah, right.
But I get you. I understand.
I don't know. Chulak. I mean,
the surface was a desert. Kind of, right? It's like a glass desert.
Glass desert, yeah.
Yeah.
Chulak, I think, is an interesting villain because it's supposed to be really strong, like you said, right? It's supposed to be one of great fighters.
Strong.
But they also have like
2 men.
They have this element of like also being like real smart.
Yeah.
And
2 brains. They're
constantly like trying to figure out like, is there a Jedi here? Who is Mace Windu? It's like they're constantly testing him, and I liked a lot of that. I don't think there's necessarily anything I don't like about Chulak.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, like, he was a fun villain. There was a part later on, and like we were getting into like the late chapters of the book, and I was like, wait, what happened to Chulak?
Yeah.
He just okay, is that what happened to him? All right.
All right.
All right, well, fine, I guess. But I was glad that...
He kind of had the energy of, like, he just didn't have, like, big bad energy for me.
Yeah.
He had like sub-boss energy, or like, anime movie, and like the bad guy has like 5 henchmen, and there's like the pretty one, and then there's like the one with the weird power, and then there's like the dumb one, and like Chulak is the one with the weird power.
Okay.
I think Dragon Ball movies, they all have that same layout.
Well, I think you do that though when well, I guess not in Dragon Ball, but I think about those kind of things when you have like the main villain who is just like the old guy with the money.
Yeah, sure.
And then you have like, here's his 5 henchmen that are all like really good at protecting him and doing the stuff that he can't do. I think about that a lot more too. Whereas this guy, I think, is like, he's scary. He thinks stuff out pretty well.
He's certainly unique, and I did not expect him to be such a foil to Mace.
Yeah. No, I thought it was pretty good. I really like towards the beginning, there's a person trying to cross a bridge, and Mace, like, it's like, I forget what he says, because like you find out that Sybil like mainly hires their kids, and just births a lot of kids, like one every day. But he's like looking at these 2 guys like, too much ugly for one mama. He's like, you must be Chulak's people. And then he beats them up and says, tell Chulak to come get his trash or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's his like, no, get my resume or something like that, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
And I just love the moment. It also feels very Mace Windu for some reason too.
It's one of those the party's over feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you.
That's too much ugly for one mama. I just thought it was so funny.
Yeah.
But no, I like that moment. And it was also like they were harassing like this like mom and their kid who was trying to go get water and laughing at like, haha, they take them all day to go get the water now because they won't pay the toll on their bridge.
Yep.
So, and it just also helps show the corruption and badness of this city.
Yeah.
So,
but no, the book had a lot of detail. Like, there was a part of me that was like, I don't know if you need all this detail, but like I said, I think a second read through would help me absorb it a lot more, maybe appreciate it a lot more.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Like, it wasn't my, like, if I have to pick Shatterpoint or this, I go Shatterpoint. But I also have rose-colored glasses. I got to reread Shatterpoint at some point, too. But I certainly didn't have that feeling the first time I read that book.
Okay.
So, I don't know what your thoughts are on that or not.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't remember Shatterpoint too well. It's one of the few Star Wars books I've read, like back before we started doing this, where like I didn't read a lot of the EU stuff. Yeah. But I remember like reading through and enjoying it and liking it for the most part. And then when I finished this one too, or even like in the middle of it too, I was like trying to like, okay, wait, so we're here and we're doing it. There was just, it felt like a lot in my head I was trying to keep track of.
Which is interesting in a story that takes place on one planet.
And one planet,
Star Wars is
mainly focused on just one. We weren't really jumping around like, what what was it, Master and Apprentice, where you have like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and you'd be talking to
plan
both,
and you do a lot of
yeah,
stuff,
or Anakin and Obi-Wan in Brotherhood or something
and you're
like that.
right, it was primarily Mace Windu's point of view as well.
Yeah, it wasn't very often that we jumped to other people. It did happen some. That one guy, when he was like dying in the gates or the walls, all the things coming at him, like we jumped and got his kind of like last moments a little bit, but most of it's all from Mace's perspective.
Maybe that's why I kind of like, hey, this would be, and I played Outlaws. This would be kind of a cool video game. It's like one setting, one character.
Yeah.
You know, whereas it's hard to do a video game with 20 characters with 10 different planets in a movie, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot more there. I did like our visual that we got with Qui-Gon's funeral. There was a little bit more there, which I thought was interesting, and we got to hear them talk about being on Naboo and where they were resting him, and like knighting their sabers, kind of like.
I like the detail of that
salute
that Yoda uses Qui-Gon's saber to light his own pyre. That was kind of cool.
Like, I think there's just a few things like that where it's like, well, I didn't get that from the movie, so it's cool to get some different perspective on this, which is neat to have.
That was cool. We also got a small scene with little Annie, little Jake Lloyd, Anakin. In that scene where he comes in and talks with the younglings, and Anakin's, you know, even then, I think he says something like his determination was frightening or something like that compared to the other.
Little Anakin had some comment where he's like, the Jedi aren't supposed to feel, or something like that, and it's like, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan told me this, and it's like, well, it's not quite it. Yeah. You know, there's something along those lines.
You don't ignore your feelings. You're supposed to absorb them or something like that.
Yeah, it was something where it's like
a little more Viapad.
You're not quite on the right track, but you're kind of almost there.
Again, like reading that, I was just kind of like, man, I know Obi-Wan made the promise, but like you have a set of skills and beliefs that might benefit this young child. Though I guess the idea is they don't know that.
Yeah. And then I also liked there was I think might have been around the bridge scene too, where like he can't use his lightsaber because he doesn't want people to know he's a Jedi. So he hides it inside his stick, right? Yeah. And I thought that was great that he did that. But he has this like memory talking about his lightsaber, and it's like people ran at the sight of it. They would give up and drop their weapons at the sign of his purple lightsaber.
Yeah.
And one, I thought that was interesting because it's like, well, I mean, not a lot of people must have purple lightsabers, right? Yeah. Like it must be pretty rare. Like he's the only one, especially in like the prequels, that I'm like, there's a purple lightsaber. So I just like that he had this like, there was like a notoriety about him. Like if you saw a purple lightsaber, like the soldier's here, you know, the fighter, like he's coming in to like, you should give up and not fight this.
Yeah.
But then I also was wondering a little bit of like, how often were there purple lightsabers and stuff too? Because I can really only think of 2 people that have purple lightsabers, I think.
Sure, yeah. I got a couple in my head, barring characters that can make their lightsabers all the colors they want, like Cal Kestis or something, or Jaden Core.
I mean, the only ones I think of are Mace Windu.
Okay, so there's Mace.
And then I think of Revan.
Darth Revan. There's also there's actually another one that we've seen in live action. Another live action purple lightsaber. Can you think of who they are? I almost said he. That would be incorrect.
In live action.
Yeah. It's just kind of cheating because you only see it for a second.
Is it an Acolyte?
It's an Acolyte.
That's the only thing I can think of that it would be in.
Row. She has a purple lightsaber.
Okay.
Yeah. And I believe there's is it purple or pink in one of the last High Republic that we did? Like the more not bounty hunter but mercenary character. I can't think of her name right now. But she had like a purple or pink lightsaber. But either way, yeah, it's quite rare. Earlier when we was talking about my, in my list, how I actually appreciate how reading into Mace's dealing with the dark side and how he redeflects things, and I kind of am reading that into how he deals with the lightning now. Do you at all read into the idea that a purple lightsaber is literally a combination of blue and red?
Like it's more of a darker Jedi kind of thing?
I never really thought about it in that regard because generally I liked the old thing back in the day where it's like, blue was more for the warrior, green was more for the consular, yellow was a sentinel. That was kind of like Old Republic RPG stuff. Purple, I'm not really sure, but I guess you could say like maybe purple can be like a combination of a Jedi blue lightsaber like he has in this action figure, but utilizing red as well, so it comes out purple. I don't know.
Hmm.
Like if this was the
Maybe.
Ninth Jedi from Star Wars Visions, like Mace's lightsaber might start blue, but as he uses Vipad, maybe it goes more purple. It's not red. He's not full dark side.
It didn't go red.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that a thing?
A little red tint got joined in there.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it only happens if you start to bleed but never finish bleeding your saber. You know what I mean?
Ty Yorick, that was her name, Nexus. Hers is also purple. So that would be another character that has a purple lightsaber. And if we go with the extended universe, Jaina Solo had a purple lightsaber.
Oh, really?
I believe Anakin Solo had a purple lightsaber as well. So there's some of the new Jedi Order stuff that had purple in there as well.
Yeah, I've never known their saber colors. I don't think I've ever dove into any of theirs.
Yep, that would be like the Vong, the Yusin Vong, and Legacy of the Force stuff, and they're really cool stories, but not canon. I want to say anymore, but they never really were canon. Lucas never looked at that and been like, "Yep, that's it."
There it is, using Vong.
He's always just like, I make money off that."
I've always heard about
But it's
using.
not mine.
I've always heard about using Vong, and I've always thought it sounded like an interesting villain.
Really interesting. They are interstellar invaders, and because they are not from the galaxy far, far away, they are not subject to the Force.
Yeah,
Which is really interesting.
it's been like
But then they kind of are.
some of my thoughts with Thrawn and stuff too, and them going to other places
The
that
other
aren't within our
galaxy,
galaxy. And I was like, what are they going to defend against? Because it kind of felt like he was like, we got to defend against something that's coming. And I was like, what if there's using Vong coming, and that's what they're going to have to defend about? And I was like, that could be cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
They're
I just want to
interesting.
see using Vong because I probably will never read the books that they're in.
If I remember correctly, weren't the Vong going to appear in the Clone Wars at one point, but they decided not to?
Really?
I don't remember.
I don't know.
Yeah. Mara Jade, I believe that guy B is correct. I think Mara Jade also had a purple lightsaber before she started using Luke's lightsaber.
Oh, really?
Luke's blue lightsaber.
I don't know why. I just pictured she had red, but she had red hair, so they probably wouldn't give her a red lightsaber.
No.
So that makes sense to give her purple.
But I mean, she was Emperor's hand, so that would make sense to think that.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I think she had purple as well.
Did she have a whip?
No, you're thinking of Lumina, Lady Lumina.
Lady Lumina had a whip,
She had a whip.
but it wasn't a light whip, right? Just a whip.
It was a light whip.
It was a
but
light whip.
it was solid. I think. I don't know, man.
Okay. I don't know why I'm picturing Mara
Yeah.
Jade with a whip, so I was just like, I don't know.
Yeah, she eventually becomes Darth Lumina, and she trains Jason Solo, and then he becomes Darth Cadus. There's some cool stories.
Not good.
Yeah,
That's all bad.
Not good.
But no, I don't know. For the most part, this book, I think I enjoyed it more than I didn't enjoy it. I just think there was a lot there, and trying to keep all the different characters in my head. I think I fumbled a little bit. There's a point whenever
I felt the same way.
there was a point when there was someone who was there that was a big deal, capturing Mace, and I was like, wait a minute, okay, where did this guy come from? And I forget what this guy's name is. So I had to catch up and try to be all right, where? And then I have to go back, and I'm taking more time instead of getting to continue my story with Mace and stuff. So the times I had those, I didn't enjoy as much, but that may be more on me than it is on the book, maybe.
I've been ever since we started Donkey Gonk, I've exclusively listened to the audiobooks. I almost never pull out the actual book, but I read a book that Jancy really likes called Fourth Wing, which is it's a series of books. It's about dragons. It's cool, but I read it on the Kindle, and I just kind of fell in love with what's this word? Oh, and it just brings up the glossary and all the times it's been mentioned. And who's this guy? Oh, you saw him in this page. That's pretty cool.
That's
I might
neat.
need to do that with more stuff.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
But yeah, Lumina had a metal light whip thing, says Dr. Teak. Oh,
Gotcha.
and Irish Nexus. At Celebration Anaheim in 2015, Dave Filoni and Pablo revealed at their Untold Clone Wars panel that before the show was canceled, there had been plans for the Yusufin Vong to potentially appear in the Clone Wars television series. Sketches of the species drawn by Filoni for the show were shown. I'll have to look that up. That's
Huh.
cool. So
That's
yeah,
pretty cool.
they Vong were going to show up at some point, but I know Dave always liked to do that. He knew the expanded universe pretty well, but he also understood that Lucas was like, that's not my thing, so he always tried to smuggle stuff in.
Sneak it in
Yeah,
there.
he always did.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else I have necessarily. I like that I like the theme, I think, of Mace Windu, I think I like it. I don't know. I wrote it down. I thought it was interesting about him being drawn by duty but bound by love.
Mm-hmm.
And like there was like a two way of doing that they did with the one person, but then also with like his love for the people, like trying to take care of people and stuff too. I just thought it was interesting that they were just bringing in love, and I'm like, I don't usually relate love to Mace Windu, so I just thought it was an interesting thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot about that scene in Episode 2 with Padme and Anakin, and talking about the Jedi are forbidden to love. It's like, no, like, love is, it's unconditional love. There's you can have a general feeling for people, but you can't have attachment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm interested in like, what are some successful Jedi relationships? Because we know that they're not celibate. We know that they
like. How does Mundi get through with everything?
Mundi, he does his duty,
or is it just it's a duty? There's
duty
no attachment.
Ends at booty for him. 8 wives. I don't know what he has.
Right? I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
is that still canon or whatever?
I don't know.
Did the Acolyte mess that up?
I don't. Not that I know of, but maybe.
Oh man.
But no, yeah, I would be interested in knowing like that kind of thing, especially when you go back and like we're telling more High Republic stories and stuff too. And the further back you go, like when does that, like, has that always been a heavy like rule, or is that a rule that kind of happens later on?
Yeah, I mean, it's just you can love. I can love you. I just can't feel attached to you. Like Yoda says, like, hey, you can love things, just don't be afraid. But whenever they leave, you gotta learn to let them go.
Yeah.
So this is the Dave Filoni image.
Oh, the drawings from the... Okay.
Yeah, I definitely
Is that
recognize...
their ships?
That's their ships. They have organic. Everything's organic.
I know everything. I know that like they had a snake that's like a belt, but then they like would like whip it out, and now it's like a staff, and they would fight lightsabers. It's called
an ampy staff. Like rather than like sheathing your weapon, it'll just like crawl around you. It's kind of cool.
It's really crazy.
But the spikes that come out from the neck and the shoulders, like that was very the silhouette of the Vong from the comic covers and stuff like that. So he really nailed the look, but we never got anything like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, cool.
I also enjoy, like I said about Yoda and Mace Windu talking and stuff too. Mm-hmm. There was a line that I don't know. It stood out to me about Mace Windu's like kind of there, and I think Yoda senses that he wants to talk about something, but he's not sure about talking about it. And Yoda says something along the lines of like, "Speak of the things you won't tell the archives." And I was like, so like if it's not in the archive, it doesn't exist. And I thought about that kind of stuff too, but I was just like, here's the stuff that like we might not talk about Duchess. Obi-Wan's not gonna maybe tell all of the Jedi Order about that. Mace Windu might not tell everything about Metagos that happened and stuff too. But I'm gonna tell you these things, but not this part.
The things you leave out are sometimes more revealing.
Yeah. I just was like, okay, interesting. Sure. Even Mace Windu is like the strict rule guy. I'm gonna leave some stuff out of the archives here on this one.
I really like the book. There's just parts of me that kind of wish like, I can see that now. I can read that in. And there's some stuff that happened this morning. It's like, I don't know if I buy any of that. I don't know if that man changed much.
I really like the Padme books.
Yeah.
Because I felt like they gave really good intuition and, I don't know, just more to what I've already seen of these characters in these movies. Whereas this one, I'm like, this is a cool story. But I don't think it affects anything when I rewatch episodes 1 or 2 or any of that kind of stuff. Now, there was a moment at the end, and I want to ask you this because I think it's a thing that the internet's talked about for a long time, where I was like, oh, man, what if this Metagos place that he came and he helped, and now he has like this wife kind of thing here, whatever exactly they did with their webways, and I'm like, how terrible would it be if Mace Windu after episode 3 is here?
Okay, so he like goes out the window.
Is there a chance like what I've heard of like people talking about like what if Mace Windu could live? Like Darth Maul
I've heard Sam Jackson say that a lot.
Got cut in half.
Yeah.
And they brought him back and gave him metal legs. Mm-hmm. Like he lost an arm and then thrown out a window.
Yeah.
Like we could land on a speeder or something, right? Who knows?
Palpatine went down the Death Star shaft, and then the shaft blew up, and he's alive. Yeah. Let me be in there.
Yeah.
Call me. Sam Jackson saying, "I get you." So you think like, is there a way where Mace Windu like accepts his defeat and then like exiles himself back there?
I don't know. Yoda does it.
Yoda certainly does.
Yoda exiles himself.
But Yoda kind of like he takes that loss real hard.
He does.
He's like, not only did I lose, like none of us will ever win again for 20 years.
So he's like, man, I lost. This is a terrible time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to my wife.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, yeah. Because Mace doesn't feel 10,000 Jedi die. He's the first of them to die.
Yeah.
Yoda is like, all right, we get one shot. You go for that Sith, I go for this one. I failed. We lost. See ya.
Yeah.
You know, Bail gets him and gets him out of there.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, Mace, I would imagine if Windu survived and was able to move or do anything, would also keep going. He wouldn't just stop. But
like,
he could write in a reason why, like, you know, he was barely there, and months later he wakes up in a coma and doesn't realize who he is, and somehow makes his way. Just like webs, you know.
And maybe he doesn't do this, but like, what are your thoughts then on like just like if he was to survive? Do you think that would be an interesting thing to do, or is that too cliche now in Star Wars, where like there's a lot of these guys who like when they die and they fall somewhere real far, never believe they're dead because they're probably going to show back up.
I mean, like, if you would ask me like, hey, is there a Star Wars story you want to tell? Like, I would never say Mace Windu comes back. But if someone else is like, oh, I think there's be a real cool story here. There's nothing about what I love about Star Wars that would be like, no, this is real life and you're showing me that it's not reality. He's like, it's fiction. Anything could happen.
Sure,
you know? So if you have a fun story or a good story that takes place after, like, I'm there. I'll check it out, you know. But it wouldn't be something that I feel needs to be told. But I would love if an artist was like, actually, I think there is something, and it's this. And, you know, if I loved it, then I'd be like, I was wrong. So,
yeah.
I think I'm probably, like, default, like, no, keep him dead. I think it's more important that, like, the dogmatic one of the Jedi like faces the consequence of like, you thought you could do this and you can't. Mm-hmm. You thought Anakin was on your side and he's not, you know. I think there needs to be a consequence to that, but I've been wrong about that before. Not wrong. I don't think you can be right or wrong. I've been swayed by that before.
Swayed.
Yeah.
And I would be interested with chat what you guys think too on like if you think Mace Windu could or should come back, or if you like where it just kind of ends it. So
I mean, you know, it's not like Sam Jackson was the most, you know, he was in his, I guess, like, you know, he could do a lot of stuff back in 2005. He can't do a whole lot these days. He would be like, Sam Jackson's cool, looking a little older, got a good stunt guy, you know? So
yeah, right. Maybe. I get what you mean. Mm-hmm. You know, Tamara Morrison's a little older in Boba than he was back during Episode 2, right?
Ray Stevenson did it really well. He's an older guy, and he got to bring it a little bit, and the stunt guy did.
You give him a robot arm, now he can actually fly that chariot. Right?
You're so right.
Right? Now he's like, now you fly the chariot,
that
Joker.
One comment alone changes things for me. We could canonize the chariot scene with the robot arm.
We could.
Damn.
Was it the opposite or the same arm that Anakin lost? They both lost their right arm.
He comes down with the right. And then he cuts off the right. Anakin loses his right.
His right as well, right? Dang. I was hoping they could, like, robot hand, like, arm wrestle. You know?
So funny.
That'd be great.
Vader and Mace.
I guess both of his arms are now cut off at that point.
They are.
So he could still do it. So
you're right.
It doesn't really matter, I guess, anymore. But, no, that was, like, one of my questions, like, at the end. Like, I was thinking about that. Like, what if he showed up at the end here?
Yeah.
And it's like we cut, you know, I don't know, 20 years in the future, however far it is, 10 years plus 3 or whatever. Yeah. Like, and now, like, oh, he lost, he died. Does she feel it? Does she not feel it in the web, you know? Because there is that, like, web connection thing they always talk about. And
would she feel it?
Or do they make any kind of nod at all to it? And
they both are really good at not feeling attached to each other.
Yeah.
Like, they love each other, but they're not attached. Which doesn't make sense to me.
I love the way they talked about, what was the line they said? They held each other as close as two people with no attachments could, or something like that. And I was like, huh.
Yeah, I don't really know what that means.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Like, what does that mean?
Because, I mean,
it's like, that just means, like, you just hold each other close, but you don't.
I mean, that's why love is so powerful, because it evokes, like, if you do something to someone that I love, I will do terrible things to you. Whereas if it's just someone like, I like that person. Oh, what'd you do?
Damn it,
I'd be like, dang it, that sucks, you know? But you do something to someone I love, like, I'll go Sith, you know? Which is why I'm like, I understand why Jedi who are blessed with all this power must deny themselves something that the rest of us get to enjoy. Yeah, I get that. But, yeah, I don't know.
Okay. After that, I don't think I have too much else.
Yeah.
We should probably also make sure that we get into next book next time we do Bonk and whatever questions we can get to, right?
We should. We only have 20 minutes left, and we made a promise. All questions.
Yeah. So was there anything else you had with the book or anything that we didn't get to talk about that you're like, I really want to make sure I mention this? Or
No, other than I think initially when I finished reading it, I was just kind of like, that was okay. But then like as I was going over, getting ready for the podcast and stuff, I was like, actually, I like that part though, and I like that part, and I like that part. And I kept going back like, what was this part? This is good. And I was like seeing breadcrumbs that the author was leaving. That was like, oh, that's why it's so detailed, you know? So I'd like to reread it.
Yeah.
I don't often say that after these.
I think my first time through, like I really like Brotherhood. Brotherhood was one of my favorites. But I think I connected with it a lot more the first time through, where I feel like this one, my second time, I'll be like much more understanding and enjoying it a lot more than I did my first time.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I don't think the book was bad. It's just that plus what we talking about where it's like I don't feel a difference after reading this on the characters that I feel like I should feel.
Yeah, which is like it's almost like an unfair thing to ask of your reader. Like, well, I didn't. It's not the goal, but it feels like with what happened, it should.
Yeah.
It feels like it's now weird that it didn't.
Yeah.
I get
like
you.
The Padme trilogy I think might be my favorite trilogy of books that we've read out of all the Star Wars books because of the difference that I feel towards her and her handmaidens.
Agreed.
That I didn't get from the movies. Like it added so much more to everything. Yeah. Whereas this one, I'm like, this is really cool, and I like the things it's giving me, but I don't feel like I've really gotten it added to Mace in the other ones. So,
but as Nexus said, it is nice that we got a new novel. Like, you know, we haven't done that really. Something that just came out. So we've been kind of furiously catching up.
Yeah, I think it's like November, October. Like it's not been out very long.
Yeah.
So